Okay, well, we are here to talk about the Brevity, what used to be called the Brevity 10 and is now the Brevity Day in the Life. And David, let me just ask you, since you have had all these appointments this week, how many of those appointments occurred from doing the activities? I'm totally putting you on the spot here, that are included in the Brevity 10. So calling your Hot Watch nurtures, calling your sphere, calling recent website visitors or market report viewers. Did any of those
Uh,
appointments that you had this week come out from those activities?
yeah, two are for my sphere that I retouched again, and the
Mm-hmm.
others are expireds that I was
They're
calling.
expireds. Awesome. Was anybody on that call yesterday learning more about the using Brevity to call canceled and expireds through Landvoice?
I was waiting for that call, but I was with that client, so
The
I
Make sure
recording
you
couldn't.
will come
catch the
out.
replay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah,
watch
it will come out
it.
today. And I have played a little bit with this tool during the 5,000 dials. I have not had as good of success with it as it sounds like you have, but I'm excited to see how that works over time. Okay, so if you are not doing the Brevity 10 or the Brevity Day in the Life of database, this is a really, really good rhythm to get into. What I find is that when I sit down to do my lead generation, sometimes the hardest, or to say, okay, I'm going to make 10 dials or 20 dials or 50 dials, or I'm going to call my sphere. Sometimes the hardest thing for me is to figure out, where do I start? Who do I call first? What do I say when I call them? And the Brevity Day in the Life it's just like it answers all those questions for you. So you can find this on our place right on the homepage right here. So if you just click this Brevity Day, and can you guys see my screen?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he told me it was
Okay,
ridiculously
awesome.
under ask.
190,000. And the guy, the little realtor that is helping these people, well, first of all, he works for his
Okay, I actually love it when people pocket dial me, and I always sit there creepily and hear what they're talking about. So that's basically the same thing. Okay, so this is basically, it used to be 10. Is it still 10? No, it's only 8. So that's probably why it's not called the Brevity 10 anymore. But this is a series of activities that you can do if you have an hour, if you have 5 hours. It actually doesn't matter. I would say, as your database grows, I think it becomes kind of impossible to get through all of these activities in like 2 to 3 hours. But when you have like your brand new database with just your 200 contacts, this is such a good way to get things moving. And then once your database gets so big, or you have so many tasks or hots or nurtures that it actually would be like, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours to get through them, then I usually just commit a certain amount of time to each section, or sometimes I'll try to get through a Brevity Day in the Life over the span of my 5 days. So I think don't get too hung up on, can I get through all of this in an hour? If you can get through it in an hour, we probably need to add more people to your database, or we need to work on, having those conversations get a little more in depth. So the first thing that you want to do here is time sensitive priorities, but actually I would start right here on step 2. And I also want to tell you that you cannot do this wrong. So some people start the day and they are off to the races and ready to run. I like to have like a little bit of a slow start time. So I will pour myself a cup of coffee and I will review new listings before I start. Who has this as part of their morning rhythm? Nobody. Nobody looks at new listings. Okay, super.
I do.
Start doing this. Awesome. I'm so glad you do that, Reagan. And I'm sure I'm not logged in. So while I'm getting logged into the MLS here, I will do it. But one thing, do you guys use this search listings in Brevity thing where you just pick a city or a town that you're near and then do this new listings thing? Have you done this?
I tried that.
This is one way that I like to do this.
That's how I found
Because usually it gives that's how you found who?
one expired using that brevity
For new
place.
listings?
or an
Oh,
expired.
okay,
There was
awesome.
I hit that
In
and it
the
came up.
expireds. Yep. Yeah, so if you hit this, there's listings, there's partners, canceled expireds, and neighborhood search. And so when I'm reviewing new listings, I'll hit listings and then I'll type in, so there's not a map to start, and you're like, how does this work? It doesn't work. Pick a town, pick your county, pick somewhere nearby, and then just hit new listings. So Forest Lake is a community I work in a lot, and there are just a couple of new listings today. But if I look at this, I have, I don't know, what is this? 40 people that match to these new listings that if I just called these 40 people today, would that be a good lead generation day for me?
Yeah.
That'd be really good. That'd be really good lead generation day. Okay, so I might want to click through these. I might want to look at who some of these people are who are matching for these properties. The other way that I like to do this is, I'm not going to show you my MLS because my internet's too slow, is hot sheet. So do you guys know how to do this in your MLS? Do you have a link called hot sheet on your dashboard? Do you know what hot sheets
Yes.
are?
Yes.
Hot sheets like a olden days thing from like when the MLS was a book where it was like kind of the short list of what got printed fresh. And so it's quite literally that. It's in all of your MLS, it's everything that was listed today. And so when I view hot sheets in my MLS, I will do the map view because it shows all of Minnesota, some of Wisconsin, some of, I don't know, other states that I'm not licensed in. And so I don't really care about all that. I'm not driving 3 hours. So I'll just kind of look at my metro and I'll kind of mouse over all the little pins and see what's new. Oh, here's one. I think I got buyers looking over here, or, you know, that kind of thing. So I'm really getting a feel for what's happening in the market. Sometimes I think it's really interesting to notice trends, right? Of like, oh, I see my most coming soons come on Mondays, or I see my most properties go pending on Monday, you know, whatever. It's just like another point that like if you're looking every day, you will start to pick up on it. Where if you like only look at the houses your buyers send you, you are not going to have as big of a picture and as kind of like finger on the pulse of the market in your area. Thoughts or questions or anything you guys do differently when you're perusing listings with your coffee in the mornings?
Mm,
No, but I think it's a great idea, and
Yeah,
I think it helps you familiarize with what's in the market, that everybody should be looking at least some listings every day when you're an active agent.
absolutely. Totally. Um, Yeah, it's like it's a good rhythm to get into. It's 10-15 minutes. It doesn't take a bunch of time. If you are going through new agent launch and you have to do all your previews, it's also a really good time for you to schedule your previews, you know, so you can go ahead and book like, okay, I know I'm going to preview listings this afternoon. Let me go get those schedules of new stuff. And the other thing that I really like about that is booking open houses. So we're a small brokerage, you know, we have our own listings to host, but like I also host other companies' listings open. And so one rhythm I have is on Mondays when I'm looking at hot sheets, I'll go to those new listings and I'll specifically look for ones that do not have open houses. And then I reach out to that agent and say, hey, agent, I saw your super cute new listing. Congratulations on that. I noticed you do not have any open houses on the calendar. If your sellers are interested in having one, I'm free on Friday from 4 to 6 or whatever. And that's a really good way to get non-company listings to hold open houses in. And so make sure you're doing this. Like it seems like one to just skip right over because like it's like, yeah, yeah, whatever. I'll just see what pops up. But I think it's a really good way to make sure you know what's going on in your market. So then I would go to the next one, which is time sensitive. So this is like on your Brivity dashboard, right? It will say you have this many new, and you guys gotta forgive me because mine looks crazy because it has everybody else in. We just onboarded a couple new agents, so we put in their new database. So I don't really have 200 leads that I haven't spoken to yet. That is a new agent who we just onboarded who is going to get started working her leads in there. But so, you know, usually this is a more manageable number, like 5 or 7 or 15. So these are the first people that you would want to consider reaching out to. Now, if you're going to reach out to a new lead in your database, what are you going to say when you call them? I'm gonna start calling on you if nobody starts talking, please.
I,
Maybe
well, I, oh,
oh,
Go, Reagan.
just maybe with the LP Mama script with, I've seen you have been on my website looking at homes.
Yes, that's exactly it. So it is, let's see, it's right here. So there's LP Mama, right? Which is like a buyer qualification, or there's exactly that script where it's like, hey, this is Reagan reaching out with Place, and I noticed you were taking a look at some homes on my website. Are you thinking about a move this year, or do you just like browsing listings, right? And I found that when I add that, I just like browsing listings, especially if these are like social ads um, that people are clicking on. It releases a little tension right away where people are like, "Oh, I just like looking at listings, and it made me give you my phone number so that I could see the house," right? Like people get a little aggressive with that. And so when I give them that little either or, it's a nice release for them. And then my next question to them is when they say, "Oh, I just like looking at houses," is great. I'm probably not sending you houses that you like looking at. Is there a certain area that you prefer to browse homes in? Do you like looking at new construction? Are you more interested in historic? And now I'm kind of getting them talking and sort of off the hook for like, oh yeah, I want to move next week and I'm looking for a real estate agent. Because let's be honest, like sometimes that happens, but like more often than not, people just wanted to see the pictures of your listing and they didn't really want to give you their info, but that's how they got there. What else are you guys finding when you are calling new leads who don't really know you?
Mm,
I think tonality is really important. Um, one of the first things that I do before I jump into new leads is just take a moment to really pause and think about my intention for these calls. And my intention is always to help somebody. So whether they need a roofer, a plumber, a refinance to buy or sell, or if they need a babysitter, like my intention is to help those people. And so, remembering that intention before I go forward with the calls or the door knocking or whatever it is really important. And it comes across in the tonality. Because if my intention is I don't want to bug people, that becomes my intention. And so, or, I feel like I'm irritating people or whatever. So I want to make my intention to be to help. And then it comes across in the tonality. The words are the same.
It's okay. Yeah. I think what you said there is it's actually really important to pay attention to, Darcy, in like the phrasing of like, when you say something in the negative, like, I don't want to do this, now you're actually focusing on the thing that you don't want. But when you shift it, so it's like, I want to do this, it's actually really powerful. And now you're kind of focusing your energy into the direction of the thing you want versus the thing you don't want. Where if you're like, I don't want to bug people, and then you call someone and then you're going to be like, oh, shoot, I don't mean to bother you, but like, right? You're not going to be as like intentional, like you said, right? But like, it's just going to flow out very differently. Where if you're like, oh, this person is looking at this cute house and my seller's super motivated and there's a really good opportunity here. So I want to understand where this person is and see if we can't make a win. Really good point. Thank you, Darcy. One thing that I have happen pretty frequently when I'm calling people who don't already know me and don't have me in their phone, this literally happened last night with an agent, not even like whatever. Like I was doing some reverse prospecting for a listing and the agent answered and I was like, hey. And I know I had called her before. So I was like, I think I called you before. And like we probably talked for 3 minutes and she was like, are you an AI?
oh,
Like,
dang.
no, dude. But like you can't say things like, "Oh, I'm a real person" or whatever. So like it's your job as an agent to sort of prove your humanity without saying I'm a human. And so
Mhm.
some ways that I find are really successful to do that is to flub a little bit or to like be a little more uncomfortable or change my pacing a lot where like sometimes hey, like if I'm calling an agent, right? Agents are short on time and they want you to get to the point. you gotta buy it from my listing. Can I tell you about it super fast? Right? Or like whatever. And then I'll slow down and be like, it's a 2021 built walkout Rambler. And it's at this price point, where I'm giving them the highlights. Where if I'm talking to a client or an unknown buyer, I might want to slow it down, but not so much that I give them an opportunity to like click and hang up before I got my message across. Have
Yeah.
you guys run into this where people are like, I think you're a robot?
Yeah, that happened yesterday.
What did you do?
I find that people will believe you or they won't think you're out of the country if you say the city that you're in. So I'll mention that, yeah, we're the real estate
Good
pros
morning.
located in Pendleton, and we're right across, the snow castle we're right next to. So they know I'm not just calling from some other country trying to steal their information.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess
So
building
does
that
your
trust.
Brivity number show up as your location or does it show up somewhere weird? Do you
It's
know?
it's a local number.
It's a local number. Okay.
Yeah.
That's helpful too. Mine is like this town in Minnesota that's like 3 hours away that I don't think I've ever even been to. And so when people answer, sometimes that's a nice intro, like you're talking about, where they're like, Waconia, who's calling me from Waconia? I'm like, I am, but I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
And some of those like kind of little, just like laughing, awkward moments actually is a sort of point of reality versus like, I don't think the AIs make stupid jokes yet, but
Yeah.
that's probably coming.
Yep.
It's probably coming. Okay, so once we call anybody who's a new lead, because we want to know that it's speed to lead, right? If you get to people sooner, they're very likely to work with you. If it takes you 3 days to respond to somebody, they probably already called 7 other real estate agents and someone's already signed a contract and showing them homes. So we want to get to them really fast. And then we want to work with our hot and nurtures. So in your Brivity, you can just go to your people, right? And you can filter this out by hot, by watch, by nurture. And you can save some of these as auto plans, right? So for me, I just like mixed hot and nurture together. Or not as auto plans, as smart filters. So if I want to see all my hot nurtures, I just go here, I hit my hot nurture. They all pull up right there. Um, some other ones, that I have saved in here, I have too many in here. But if there's something that you find yourself continuously filtering to the same thing, save it as a smart filter because it goes way faster. We also set up our own auto plans for Hot Watch Nurture that don't have any client interaction. They just create a task for the agent to call. So if I assign someone as a hot, it automatically starts an auto plan that puts a task for me that says call so and so. And it's every 7 days for hots because I should be talking to my hots every 7 days. I think it's 30 or 29 days for nurture. So every 29 days, I'll get it over here in my tasks that these are the people that I can call. And so I'm always trying to figure out like, how do I make this a little bit easier than and if everything's all in one spot, then it's right here. So today I could just go, okay, here's all my hot watch and nurtures that need to be called today. There's 11 of them here. Is that pretty reasonable that I could get through in a half an hour? Absolutely. How do you guys handle these hot watch nurtures? Are you using tasks? Or are you using just filtering by status?
I just use different agents on our team do it differently. Some are using an auto plan. I personally don't because I feel like I get boggled down in tasks. So I think it just depends on what your style is, what your communication. I think more of the SCs on our team really love tasks and they enjoy, kind of checking off those boxes. I'm more of a D's. So for me, tasks and lists are like not necessarily my happy place. So I'd rather push.
Yeah.
So I think it just depends on the person.
I think so too. And that's why I think it's good to know that like you can get at it from a lot of different ways. So tasks or filters or your brain, but like ultimately I think our goal is to get your list out of your brain. And that's the place where like we want to let technology help us out So once we've called through our hots and nurtures, you should always be adjusting, right? So if someone, comes in and they're real hot, and then after a couple of calls, you're like, maybe they're not so hot, or maybe they're full of it. Make sure you're updating so you're not calling them every 30 days if they're actually a watch, if they're actually unqualified. You want to kind of reduce your frequency of calling if it's appropriate. And if you're calling a nurture and they're like, oh, dude, my lease is up like in 2 weeks, we got to go. Now they're hot. We want to make sure we're updating that so people are getting the appropriate level of contact. The next one is recently active leads. So this is people who have been on your website. And who loves this activity feed? Like, I love this activity feed. Have you guys been using this? This person returned to my website. This person asked a question. It's sometimes it gets to be a lot. So this guy's definitely real. Jeff Flintstone, doubt it. But right, where it's like, okay, it's text messages and it's website visitors and it's someone who is on here. This is now added to the last item in the brevity day of the life. But sometimes when I want to just see quickly, like, oh, someone was just on here and they were just looking at homes, I'll start right here. But again, this is one that you can it is a smart filter. So you can be like, last 30 days, site visit, website visit today, website visit this week, and no contact. And so you just hit that. It will pull up everyone who has been on your website in the last, in this case, 7 days, who you have not spoken to. Now these 16 people are a great place for you to start calling. Once we get through those people, now we're kind of getting into like, all right, what's to be done? So if you're using tasks, you may or may not have tasks on here. So you can see for me, like there's probably some overlap in calling my hot watch nurtures and my tasks. So it's very likely that numbers 2 and 3, or I'm sorry, numbers 1 and 3 are actually going to get done in the same time, but that's going to change depending on how you're doing it. So if you're not using tasks for your hot watch nurtures, you may have some other tasks, and they might be things like, set up a market report or go to your buyer consult or whatever. Just make sure you're getting through those. And then we've got our watch nurture. See, I always put hot and nurture together because I feel like those two, they go back and forth pretty often. But this one says call, watch, nurture, and unqualified. And I would say call, watch, and unqualified. So this is a really great place to spend a little bit more time if you have like an hour and do like an actual dialer session, right? Where it's like, let me just pop 20 unqualifieds in. I'm just going to call through it because you're going to get a lot of voicemails. You don't have a lot of rapport here. If someone answers, great, you'll have a short conversation with them and see if you can't move them forward or provide some kind of value. But I would say these are a lot more like you can burn through like a large number of dials when you're calling your unqualifieds. What do you guys say when you call your unqualifieds?
Hey, Amy, I'm gonna jump in because we have like a minute left.
Mhm.
So one of the things that also I find is we don't text and email enough. So agents are calling and then, but I'm like, well, you had the calls, but there's no text or emails, right? And I don't know
Yeah.
how many times I get people responding to text faster and emails than a call because they're at work, right? So I would just throw in there that when you're doing these and you did your calls, you may want to go back and make sure you're sending just as many texts if after so many calls, just into that routine and or emails. Hit all three. So,
Yeah. I
but
think that's really important yeah, I called you, I left a message, and then I pop out into the contact. And I actually have a cheat sheet of text messages that I frequently send
mm,
so that I can copy and paste
yeah,
them in so they're pretty fast. And I'll just have that up in a second screen. That's such a good
absolutely.
reminder.
Yeah. So
And then
sorry,
those
Amy.
email templates.
Yeah, I have to
No,
run
thank
to my
you.
appointment. All right, thanks. All right, bye guys.
Thanks, Mary.
Bye.
Thanks, Mary. And we are just about wrapping up here, guys. So we're going to spend some time calling those unqualifieds and the watches. And then we're probably going to have like a list of odds and ends. So sometimes when I'm going through like a longer dialer session, I'll just make a task for myself to set market reports later or to update someone's address or someone's contact or send them listing alerts. So I'll make sure I go back through those sort of tasks that I freshly assigned to myself during my lead generation and complete those. And then this is where it says, check your notifications in the feed, enter any new leads. Like if you were doing a Mojo session and you need to move them over into Brivity, that's a good time to do that. Set up your appointments, record any appointments that were done, kind of paperwork stuff. And then if you still have time, then we should be hitting our past clients in our sphere and working through circles, FISBOs. So there's lots of different places we can call. If you ever find yourself sitting down to do a lead generation session and you do not know where to start, I would absolutely just do this Brivity day in the life. Okay, we're going to get on with our day. I would love to hear from a couple of you. What's one thing you can take action on today to add to your rhythm or your routines that will help you grow your business and do more transactions in 2025?
Stay consistent with the calls and just this fear. Always kind of keep yourself put yourself in a calendar to just kind of keep touching back. I don't know about the drips or anything like that. Sometimes people just get a little annoyed and they'll just, opt out of everything. So I like to just kind of first interested and then kind of put them on a longer drip just so they kind of keep in touch. But definitely go ahead and keep up with that. So
Yes, consistency wins. Seriously, if nobody comes to your open house this weekend, but 10 people come next weekend, you still had 5 people at each of your open houses. So it's kind of the same thing. Awesome. Anybody else got another one?
I really loved what you said about to say you're a human without actually saying I'm a human. I
Yeah.
get so in my like when I'm making calls, I feel like I have to be uber duper professional, and I just think that like in this like in the career that we have, like it's not really. I mean, yeah, it's important to be professional, but it is important to make those connections, and being very posh on the phone sometimes won't allow that to happen. So I love that.
Yeah, I think that was a great tip
Awesome.
as well, because as a newer agent, a lot of my business is phone calls. So I gotta be more, be more, be more posh, like Amanda said.
Yeah, love it. Some people you got to be posh with, some people you got to be really chill and casual with. It's
Yeah.
really about kind of getting to know and picking up on what's happening on the other side of that line. So I love it. It's a good skill to practice. We can all hit that on our calls today. All right, everyone, thank you for your time this morning. I forgot to tell you that Destiny has set up an open Zoom for script practice. That is 8:45 to 9 o'clock, so right before this call. If you guys want to jump in and participate on that, there will be other agents on there who will be practicing scripts. Reach out to Lexi for the link because I don't have it, but she's got you. So thanks for coming today. You guys have a great day and we'll talk soon.